Here we are back at the range. Today's plan is to test some 38 Special and 357 Magnum using my 3-inch Taurus 605. It's a 5-shot 357 mag with a 3-inch barrel. It's approximately the same size as a Glock 19 in overall length, height, and width and weight. Difference is obviously this is a 5-shot 357, whereas with the Glock 19 you can carry the standard mag, I believe, is 15 rounds of 9mm. So that's kind of the difference, but that's a size comparison for you if you're interested in concealed carrying this particular gun. As always, we'll be testing through my heavy clothing barrier, which is a layer of denim, a layer of fleece, and then 2 layers of cotton t-shirt material. A Steinel 357 Magnum. This is 125 grain solid copper hollow point. These ones look very interesting to me. Like, we're going to probably get some really good expansion on those guys. Steinel 357 Magnum, 125 grain solid copper hollow point. Well, I swear I'm not trying to be this accurate, but this is side by side here where the golden saber went and then the solid copper went, and they both made it through the first block and into the second block here. So you can see we've got now 3 distinctly separate entry points, one here, and one here into this second block, and I still don't know how far in they went. So again, we're going to just keep shooting and dissect this block as we, once we get done with all these rounds, because I don't want to tear that block apart right now, because I got more I want to try to test today. Alright, as I was digging through that second block, out fell this guy. Now, as you can see, or maybe you can't, but all the petals on there broke off. Throughout the first block, I noticed at about 6 inches in, little petals like this. So when I melt that out, I'm going to find a bunch more of these little petals. So it looks like we had expansion in the first block, and it just tore off all the petals. So this Steinel was a little disappointing. Again, we ended up with a bullet that's about the size of a 357, and all the petals are broke off in the first block, so it ended up being like an FMJ, so that's pretty disappointing. Well, I've got a couple of water jugs with. I'm never one to waste one, or why bring it back home? So let's see if we can't have that Steinel 357 125 solid copper hollow point. Let's see if it can't redeem itself a little bit and at least give us a splash. What do you think? All right, well, let's see how it does in just plain water jugs. Ooh. I'm about 12 feet away and I got soaked. Oh. Okay, again, that's Steinel ammo. That's that 357 solid copper hollow point. I shot it through 3 milk jugs. It blew apart them pretty good, but any 357 is going to do that. This was the core. I found it in my fabric. I have a multi-layer fabric backstop that I have there. Thank you, Paul Harrell, for that idea. And this was inside there. Again, you can see all of the copper petals broke off again. I'm not sure if that is by design or not. I guess maybe it is by design. Maybe it's one of these rounds that's supposed to do that, and I'll just have to double check what their website shows. I thought it was an expanding copper hollow point, not one of these like G2 rip rounds or one of those separating rounds, but maybe that's the intent. I did find 2 of the lead pieces. These were in the second milk jug. I don't know where the rest went. So again, that's that one. And again, I'll check the website here before I do the final review on this, just to see if it says that these are supposed to separate or not. Maybe that's the intent on these. Well, after reviewing the company website for these rounds, it appears they are performing as intended, where upon impact the petals will break off and travel 6 to 21 inches, and the core is supposed to go 12 to 18 inches into the gel. Okay, back from the range with the Steinel 125 grain solid copper hollow points. Again, I thought this was, honestly, I thought this was a expanding solid copper hollow point similar to the Barnes TAC XPDs, but instead, as you can see here, hopefully at this close-up, this copper hollow point has 6 distinct petals on it, and as the company website says, the intent on this is to have those petals break off and expand outward, kind of like the G2 RIP or the Federal Syntec defense rounds, where they have the core continues traveling straight, hopefully to that FBI 12 to 18 inches, but the those petals spread out, and this company says they go 6 to 21 inches, I guess is what the website said. So again, in my testing, as you probably saw there, I was a little confused at first because I ended up with just this core. And then as I started digging into the block more, I found some more of the petals, and after I melted out the block, in the first shot, all 6 petals were in that first block of gel. And they ranged between about 6 to 8 inches in the gel, is where they were. The second shot I took was with water jugs, and the core I recovered through the third jug in the backstop, in the fabric backstop, and I only found 2 petals in the second jug, so the rest dispersed out either through the first jug or the second jug or what have you, but they were not recovered. So with my type of gel testing that I do, you get to see the expansion and the penetration. Again, the first one here got to between 13 and 15 inches. I didn't have the exact number, again, because the block got a little cloudy there this time. If I had clear ballistics, maybe we'd be able to see more of the wound channel that developed, and maybe this is a great performer there. But for what I test and how I test, this was really hard to see, and this is really not what I planned on, the type of round I planned on using. The core here looks like it's 100. The first core is 104 grains, so still a pretty heavy copper core. Same with the second. So hopefully this first one here, if I put all these little pieces on here, it should get up to about 125. And there you go. If you keep all the pieces there, it tallies up to 125 grains. So as far as expansion goes, again, there's really not any expansion beyond your normal 357, so it shouldn't be much here. 0.36, maybe a little bit above beyond that, but 0.36, 0.36. So yeah, it's really, there's no expansion. It's just the core and then those petals that broke off. So I guess the round did what it was supposed to do. It wasn't what I was expecting it to do. You saw in the second video there, it made a big splash, but any 357 is going to do that. As far as these specialty type rounds, I get maybe they're useful in other calibers, but with the 357, there's enough power there, enough penetration, you can get enough expansion. I don't know why we'd really want to use gimmicky rounds such as this. So take it for what it is. I would rather use a solid performing expanding hollow point A solid copper hollow point is great. I expect when we get to those Barnes rounds, both the TAC XPD, that's 125 grain, and the Vortex, which is 140 grain, I expect both those rounds to perform exceptionally. But for this, it is what it is. I didn't realize that when I bought it, or I probably wouldn't have. But you got to see it. So hope you enjoyed the video, and stay tuned. There's, again, a lot more coming up.